Beautiful. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hedonistic Way at Midday Show. I'm Renee Main, and I'm just over the moon to share this amazing woman with you because this feral mystic makes my ears bleed. A sweet nectar that doesn't come around very often, blood that purifies my soul. And she makes my heart beat a little bit slower, that drip that happens when you hear the beat of source itself, when the penny drops and the water drops into the ocean, watching the sound waves and the ripple effect of just one drop. She ignites worlds, realms, eons and lifetimes. Her words are her wand, and they heal wounds that you didn't even know that you had. She is truth, not just any truth, but divine truth. She has the ability to penetrate any armor and reminding us that we're all in this together. She will touch your heart, your soul, and crying tears that you didn't even know that you had, reminding us that we are all in this together as one. So I welcome this cosmic wonder, Maya Luna, to the show. Welcome, beautiful woman.
Thank you. My goodness, I'm just drinking in your words.
Thank you. Thank you.
They feel deeply personal, of course, because they're about me, but they emanate something else as well. It's like listening to you tune into the core of something. It's like very, very, very potent.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just, just your words have the ability to just penetrate. They penetrated me, and I just felt it. But not just me, because looking at, when I was looking around and potentially stalking your profile, you have that ripple effect, to so many people. What do you think it is about you that people just hear your words and it just lands something and activates something deep within them? What do you think it is?
I love that question because I think that, I've thought a lot about it, because it's not something that I'm intentionally trying to do, it's just happening. And then I sort of question it, like, what is this? And I think that people are very tired of the false self, of surface appearances, of keeping up with everyone, and really hungry to be met and touched in the real, in the deep, in this place where we are radiantly vulnerable and real and true, and this thread that connects all of us.
Yeah,
I think that people are really, really hungry to remember that place of, like, the soul. It's something deeper than this kind of shallow culture that we all are indoctrinated into and feel perhaps a bit stifled by, but don't always know how to let it go.
Yeah, absolutely. Why do we not know how to let it go?
Well, I think we're afraid that we won't be loved, we won't be successful, we won't have money, we won't get likes, we won't, we've got to put on a show if we want to be loved and welcomed and successful.
Yeah. What is that? Tell me about.
We're just going right to the heart of reality. I love it. Why not? Yeah.
That's it. And that's, I just think, why not go there, and that's, I think, there's such beauty to be shared in the ugliness of what we want to hide. And I think, something that intrigued me was you used the term feral. And tell me about your dance with that feral part of you and why now you're the feral mystic.
Thank you. Yeah. I use the word feral because quite literally my soul came into this incarnation and really did not want to be conditioned by any of the institutions. You know, college, schooling, training, even like regular work.
Yeah.
I've never had a guru. I've never been part of a lineage. Like my soul really wanted to remain unconditioned and untamed as much as possible.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. And yeah, the word feral didn't come around until a really dear loved one, started calling me that. And it's like, oh yeah, that's true.
I love it. I love the term because I'm from a small country town in New South Wales in Australia, and it's a term that I grew up with. We would, but it's not something. I'm in Melbourne now, and it's not a term that you hear, in the cities, but it's so prominent in the country. You said there that you're not from any lineage, and and you've always felt that way, in the gurus and the institutions and everything else.
Trainings.
Yeah.
anything to train. I just don't really want to be trained. I mean, I've had wonderful teachers, of course, that have deeply influenced me, of course, and I honor them. But yeah, I haven't ever been run through a true lineage training kind of thing. Yeah.
That term lineage, I want to explore, because when I was feeling into you and I was writing about you, I felt something about the blood, and I was like, and I didn't know why, but it felt really potent when I tapped into you. So
the blood,
yeah, like when I was like the word blood, and I kept on getting these visuals of everything, and so I was really curious about that. So what is it then about that lineage? Like take me there, because I feel like there's so many people that, a lot of our pain is, comes from a particular, our own lineage, and
like ancestors.
Yeah, ancestors. And you mentioned, that lineage, and you're being born free from that. So what's my question? Yeah, just how did you become, or what have you got to speak to of that ancestral lineage and the bloodlines, and honoring them, but also freeing ourselves from that pain that they can have?
I love these questions.
Just small questions.
Casual conversation. Wow. Well, first I want to say that, it's interesting because my friend and I today were just having this conversation about, not having culture and tradition and lineage and ancestor, like this way that in the modern world, especially as light-skinned Western European, like we don't have that. That's why there's so much cultural appropriation and taking of other cultures, and because we just don't have that. So I think I first want to say that, I wouldn't say that being feral is like better than being trained or tamed or
Yeah.
linearized or whatever. It's just what my soul
Yeah.
wanted.
Absolutely.
I will say that, you know, in terms of like the bloodline and the ancestry, I haven't done that work of like really tapping into the ancestors, but I do know that I think I was probably the first in quite a few generations in my family system to really like pop out of the, you know, like classic black sheep, like sort of
Yes.
like I was like, what's going on here? Like, what is this all about? And why are we doing things this way? And what does it mean? And that's a very classic black sheep thing. And you know, the black sheep is sort of like the catalyzing energy that sort of evolves the bloodline, you know, by busting out of the dream and the trance that, you know, the generations have just been like doing over and over and over. And it's an intense incarnation because the black sheep is not regarded positively for doing that, you know, and there's a lot of energy saying like, no, you know, that's bad. Don't wake up. So that was a big part of my life. And perhaps a very like tender subject as well, is just, you know, really being so drawn to liberation and freedom and authenticity and truth. Like being like a real seeker at a very, very young age, and kind of at the cost of intimate connection with my blood family, you know? And choosing that because I didn't have any other choice. Like I had to. But the heartbreak, you know, of being the exile has been a big wound to tend to in my life, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what I have to say about bloodline.
Yeah, look, I think, you know, because I feel like it's, you know, so much of, you know, us, if, you know, you're into, you know, any like spirituality, whatever you want to call it or label it, you know, if you just want to feel liberated or empowered, I think we're going to come up against a time where we butt heads with that sense of we're going to have to go out on our own here. We're going to have to go out on a limb at some point, and we're going to have to fucking jump, you know? And that can be a really hard step, you know, to take. And I think it just goes back to then, you know, earlier when you were talking about, you know, we're craving it. And I feel like that's what you give people. You give people a little taste of it with your words, you know, a little window into another world. Your life is so, you know, it's so full of ritual and mystery. How did this come about? Like, it just feels so enticing.
Can I just say, like, I feel so seen and loved by you. It's really healing. I feel like really gotten and appreciated. It's really, really beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. What's the question?
You're talking about the window into, you know, like your words and how you express yourself. You give people a little taste of and permission to enter into this world of, you know, of ritual and mystery. And so I was asking you about, how did your world come about, your every moment that really honors the mystery and the ritual?
First of all, have you heard the poetry album?
No.
Oh, man. Okay, so there's a whole album of my spoken word poetry set to music that you're gonna just completely lose it.
Wow. Yes, I will.
I'll send it to you.
Yes.
I think the answer to that question is I, for whatever reason, have always wanted to follow my desire, Like my passion, my desire, my curiosity, my intrigue, my impulse, my eros, like I have been absolutely 100% committed and in devotion to following that no matter what. And I think that that's when we do that, we do give ourselves to the mystery, because our desire is wed to the mystery. You know, eros is a mysterious process. It's life urging us. It's the aliveness of truth, you know, pushing us somewhere, and we don't know where it's going, but we must, you know, and not everyone follows that.
Yeah.
But I think that when we do, you know, the depth and soul and richness of life is just inherently renewed, you know, because we find ourselves when we follow desire. We always find ourselves.
Yeah, and that's it. And there's such a dance with desire, you know, and a lot of people, a lot of, you know, gurus and leaders, or, you know, people, they put desire, like, you know, kind of on the frequency scale. It sits in the middle. However, that desire that you speak of, I really feel like it's the breadcrumbs, it's the curiosity and that path to the unknown that is so important. Why do you think that in, you know, when you talk about feminine embodiment and spirituality, there's layers to it, but what is it about that pure desire that people are so afraid to follow?
We're so scared of all the hot energies, you know, passion, anger, lust, desire. They're strong medicines, and they burn, you know, they burn, they wound, they leave us with scratches and burns. And I think that's what's so, one of the things that makes them so fascinating and so pure and so innocent is that they are untamed by the you know, the civilized proper sort of, or spiritually correct, or, you know, all these ways, these boxes that we want to put ourselves in, to be good people or be this or be that. And then here's this passionate energy, you know, that is like pure life, that doesn't want to be put into a box, that wants to be lived into and known and felt and tasted. And I think that it's very threatening to the status quo. And I think that it's, we haven't really learned the art of following that desire. I think that that's one of the real tenets of true tantra, you know, is how to work with that energy. Because right now what we have basically is just suppress it, you know, say no to it, or kind of like hedonistically indulge in a way that is like kind of unconscious, like we don't even, it just like bursts out because we've been repressing it so much, right? We don't have the art of the conscious hedonism, you know. We haven't been taught how to like ride these energies with awareness, which I think is probably a feminine art.
Definitely. When you talk about devotion, how I've had this wave of, you know, like of devotion and giving myself so freely, and then at times it gets to a point where it feels like I'm putting myself through this spiritual Olympics, just the do that's on my to-do list. How can you continue to honor that art of devotion and not turn it into something that, you know, to be a spiritual good girl?
Oh, well, I think that the truest devotion is the devotion to this moment as it is, which includes all of me, which includes my flailing lameness and bad girlness and messy, just weirdness. And then these moments of like this like beautiful poetic devotion. It's like, ah, and that's not the note that I'm able to live out all the time. That's certainly not, I think, how we're supposed to live all of the time. I think that true spiritual life is the recognition of the messiness and the ordinariness that is this, like, you know, how do we hold that and be with that? I mean, really, that's there's so much that I think wants to sell us a concept of grandiosity
Yes.
around our spirituality.
Yeah.
Which then just becomes another illusion, to chase.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, the devotion to, gosh, just the humility of what actually is. That's always the thing.
Yeah.
That's always the thing. I suppose that could be another good girl. I don't know if I'm too concerned about being a good girl. Are you?
Mm. In the past, well, yes, when I was trying to conform to others, like,
Right.
and I was, yeah. So for me, I had a big dance with the good, like always being what I was told, and I was always there, and I was, I would never do this. So for me, I found for a long time I was boxed into this persona of
Yeah.
not being able to cross the line because it's not just what I did. So yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, it's probably like the nice girl. It's
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
it's just similar.
Yes. Yeah.
It's so deep.
Absolutely.
It's so deep to break
Mm.
through that conditioning.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really, 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 really deep and really thorough.
Yeah. It is. It is. Um, you spoke
Mhm.
to. I could just drink, like, because it's just the
Yeah.
energy is so beautiful, and I have to acknowledge that, because that is just, yeah. You spoke about, creating another illusion, and it's something I've been really thinking about lately is, the illusion and the mirages that we create for ourselves. And, and I know that you talk about, us, how we can become and, get, I'm just trying to think of the words that you use, but I can't remember now. It's so we can find ourselves as God, and brings us closer to God. And that dance, how do you honor the dream but not immerse yourself in it?
Yeah. Oof. Wow. Oh, that's such a beautiful question. You've got really great questions. I feel your sincerity. I really feel the depth of your care. Like you really sincerely want the truth.
Me too.
I honor that in you.
Thank you.
So what you're talking about is kind of been the entire obsession of my life, I think. Like if my body of work, both in the mystery school that I teach and my poetry, could be summed up as one point, I think it would be what I experience in my own consciousness and in others as a relentless, what I call chasing of the carrot. Right? I'm gonna be fulfilled once I fall in love, obtain enlightenment, heal this wound, get this money, this constant mirage sense of some kind of redemption or refuge or some place that we can get to where things are finally going to make sense and we're going to have it together and we're going to feel good and we're not going to be confused or lost anymore. Like finally salvation from suffering, at the Garden of Eden. It's not really a logical thing, but I feel it as this driving force. And then at the same time, for whatever reason, I feel very viscerally aware of the fact that no one has ever gotten there. So what's up with that? And I think when the question that you asked so beautifully, how do we honor the dream? And what was the second part of it? I don't remember.
Without immersing ourselves.
Without immersing ourselves in it. To me, there's something very radical about this incredible paradox, which is that the thing that we project into the, never-ending carrot chase is actually here. It just isn't how we expected it to look. And the crunchiness and immense vulnerability of our experience is not something to resolve or get rid of because it's not a problem. It's actually innate to who we are. And that Garden of Eden is inside of that. Inside of the broken openness of that shaky uncertainty and imperfection. Like there's no escape. There's no refuge. The refuge is a non-refuge.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no refuge, and that's
there's no refuge from our condition, therefore the refuge is everywhere all the time, ever present,
Absolutely.
And the fantasy of a refuge as some place of, I think that what is sold a lot, whether it's through coaching or whatever, is on some level, spoken or unspoken, what they're selling is that you're going to get to the place.
Yes. Yeah.
You're going to get there. And everyone wants it so badly, and bless us. Bless us in our yearning for relief. But how much more beautiful is it to, and this probably circles back to why do people like my words? Probably because on some level people are very hungry to just go, oh my God, like I'm not crazy for feeling the way that I feel. This is an innately human universal experience. This yearning and this imperfection and this brokenness and this sacred holiness that just is. That doesn't need to be justified or fixed or improved. It just is.
Exactly. That's right.
I think that's what we want.
Oh, and we do, it's just, and that's, I'm feeling, I'm really sensing the, like we try so hard to teach a concept and put it into a certain modality and this and that, and I get it. But then there's also that side where there is no end point. There actually is no outcome, but yet we're sold, but we want outcomes. So I'm curious to know, how do you, you run your mystery school and you've got your poetry and you've got everything. How do you honor your right to abundance and serve in a way that honors the mystery but doesn't succumb to these very kind of I don't know, I'm doing this rotation with my hand, but whatever that is.
The machine.
The machine, yes.
Totally. like to give people flexibility on the amount of money that they give me, and with the absolute trust in people. I think that's the key piece. Like,
Wow.
I've never been fucked over in that sense. Yeah, there's something about the trusting, you know. I trust you to like I just released this little course that I created, and it was really low price, but it felt very like the coronavirus and just everything that I was kind of downloading about the planet and like the medicine that was needed, and I was very clear, like, pay what you can. And tons of people bought it at full price.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
some people reached out and said, I can offer you this, and that's all I have. And there's something about trusting people and not coming from, talk about the machine. The machine is very stingy and greedy and paranoid, and it's sort of like, I deserve this and I've got to like take it and claim it, and if I don't take it and claim it, I'm going to get fucked over. And I don't know. I mean, I think everyone's different. For me, it doesn't feel good to run energy like that. And and I feel comfortably abundant in the way that I'm doing it.
That's amazing. I've been, I've been doing this a long time, and I have been, in the game a long time, and I've never heard anyone speak like that, and I just really want to honor that in you, because I think it's so beautiful. And I'm curious to ask then, how does that, we hear so much about worth and, and charge your worth. And sometimes, I've even, there's been quotes where I will misquote them, but, about how your worth matches your wealth and things like that. So how...
It's such slippery slope with the false self there, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the way that I think of it is, there's literally no amount of money that I can think of that would be worth what I give to people.
Yeah, right.
I mean, truly, it's just like, how would I even calculate that? Like, I don't even know what, especially when like I get emails from people and it's like a poem like saved their life.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
And read it for free. It's like, and certainly people that I work with in my courses, some of them walk away and like they've got codes and transmissions written in their body now that are going to affect every single step that they take. And then other people that like maybe some seeds got planted and we'll see when they sprout. I don't know how to put numbers on these things. What I do know, this is just my kind of more like feminine response machine. I figure out what I need to be well.
Yeah.
What do I need to be well to take care of this body, to take care of this life force? So that I can show up and serve.
Yeah.
And then that's my goal. I need to bring in that amount of money so that I can be well. And it's an intuitive thing that I feel into in my own body. It's not a head. I just can't do it from the head,
No. And that's it. And that's, I think a lot of people, trip up in that is because as soon as, they can feel it, and then, but then as soon as they go to those fingers, hit the keyboard, or that pen gets the paper, it's gone. And because they automatically, then they're thinking about it. So that flow, I've seen it so many times over the years with clients, is that clicking over and staying in that state. So let me ask you then, with that in mind, you know, so being in that, like intuitively getting everything, you know, that you're receiving, that you're feeling, that, you know, you're in that state of joy, like whatever it is.
And relaxation and safety and heldness, where it's like, oh, this is an amount of money that I can like just kind of feel good inside of. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do to stay in that state as much as you possibly can? Like, or what do you actually, let me ask this, what do you do when you feel yourself, you know, kind of thinking about it?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do? Do you have anything that you do that brings you back into that flow state?
No, I don't have anything that I do. But to give you something, I will say that I think the way that I make money and run my business is probably very, very, very different than maybe anyone that I know.
Yeah.
It's very feminine. It's very intuitive. It's very irrational. um, and what it is that I just offer when it's real. Like sex. Like I don't force it, you know. I only move from the real arising, from the real current, from the real life force. And let me tell you, sometimes it's gushing and it's turned on and it's flowing and it's inflamed and it's holy. And sometimes it's very quiet, and that's okay. And sometimes it's very, very, very quiet. And it gets to a point where I start to feel nervous, like I'm not producing. Should I be producing? I haven't produced, you know. And it's a constant practice, you know, to live as a feminine being inside the machine.
Yes.
You know, and I just keep that's really my practice, is to keep submitting to that.
Yeah.
And I only move from the real, and it's I feel held by it. It's working for me. I don't know if it would work for everyone, but I don't force anything.
No, and I think that's, you know, look, I forced things for a really long time, and you know, and I made a lot of money, but there was also my heart, like it broke my heart, you know, and I would leave, you know, I'd walk off stages and I'd feel empty. And I remember saying to one of my friends, like, there's got to be a different way. Surely we don't have to bring people to pain in order to buy our product. Surely they can buy from an inspired state. Like, there has to be a different way, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because we're trained in like the whole pain point theory and like.
Yeah. You know, it's that, you know, so many, you know, and that's what they teach, you know. That's what, as a speaker, you do it this way, and you sell from stage and you do it this way, and it's a, you know, and for me, I was like, it's a model that works, you know. And I would watch, you know, world leaders, you know, like people just hand over their credit cards at the back of the room, but each point of that presentation is staged, and it's manipulation the whole way through. And I've done it, but yet I was just,
honey, and your soul was just like, no.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't do it. And I walked away from this, and I love speaking. Like, I love it. But I walked away just going, I can't do this. Like, I can't do this. I can't serve from this place. And I went full into the other, I'll say, feminine side, but yeah, like I'll use the word feminine, but that's probably want for a bit of a word. So where I was all flow and there was no strong spine, so to speak. And that didn't feel aligned either. So I really resonate with what you're saying. And then there's that part of me that goes, okay, so I'm really curious to know, what is then your dance with that inner masculine and that strong spine? And you said before, when you create, make sure you feel held and you're able to do that. So yeah, speak to me about that.
Yeah, I'd love to speak about that. And I also would love to just presence. Well, the short answer to that question, and then I want to touch on what you just shared, because it was really profound, and it's something that I've thought a lot about. Okay. Maybe I'll speak to that first, then I'll answer the question.
Yeah.
I have spent a lot of time studying the psychology of psychopathy and narcissistic personality disorder because of a relationship I was in with someone that I believe had that, and trying to understand the inner workings. And now that I've studied it and I understand it, I see it so strongly in the kind of marketing that you're talking about. Like, it's a literal, what it's doing is it's generating a trauma bond. So you're poking on people's pain points, right? And then you're also offering them a grandiose solution to their pain. You're using shame, right? And fantasy.
Yes.
Yeah. And like the manipulation is so intense, and it's basically like, it's literally the psychology of a trauma bond. Like, so the brain chemicals start flowing in a certain way. So it's so intense to hear you describe it, because I'm feeling the energy that you are inside of, where it's like, that's just like normalized in the culture.
Yeah, it's everywhere, in the NLP world, in the speaking world. It's everywhere. It's just the way of life, but it's wrapped up in really beautiful language, and so no one speaks to it about what the intention behind it.
So this is what I find really interesting. A lot of people seem to want to call that masculine.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Go out and like fucking get it, spine up straight, like that kind of like predator energy, whatever. And I don't think that's actually what the masculine is. I don't think the masculine is a psychopath.
No.
Yeah, so this kind of segues into your question. For me, my relationship with my inner masculine is always one of returning to this, like, he has to be in touch with the feminine and led by the feminine and inspired by the feminine to do and create and stand up and serve that pool of creation.
Yes.
And I think that this question of like, how the feminine can be a bit too flowy, and how do you bring in that? I think for me, it's probably been around, like you said, the claiming what I need to be well.
Yeah.
Not a supernatural easy thing for me, because my natural inclination would be to like give.
Yeah.
Overgive, overextend, and I still have, issues with that I'm like constantly tending to. But I think that's the piece, is like, what do I need to be well, and standing for that.
Yeah.
That's the protector.
Yeah, that's right. That's
in service to the feminine and in touch with the feminine. And
and that's, and you just, just feeling that in the, and again, that just, like I'm feeling, what I'm feeling is that it opens just another layer of permission, and that's what I really felt just then when you spoke about it, is just that, just from the inside out, just this exposure of another layer of permission that actually just feels so beautiful. Like it's just, oh, and it's not rigid. Like, you know, it's not, the masculine is not what we believe it is. It's not, you know, it's just, it's not rigid.
Not anti-feminine.
No, exactly. Exactly. And I want to ask you about that actually, is because, you know, you speak a lot about, you know, the embodied feminine and feminism and, you know, what it is and what it isn't. And, you know, you touch on the patriarchy and that, and this is something that I dance with all the time, is because a lot of people have called me a feminist, but I don't feel like I'm a feminist.
It's such a bad word now. I don't know when that happened, but now it's like really not cool to be a feminist suddenly. It used to be cool. Now it's not.
Yeah, it's like, it's because I love the mutable laws, right? And so I love that we're seeing beyond gender and that sacred union that's happening between, you know, the masculine and the feminine. So I see there's such a home for, they're one anyway, you know, it's, we caused the separation, right? Like that union is solid.
I love where you're going, by the way. I'm really excited we're going here.
So yeah, thank you for bringing me back, because I just actually needed that right there.
What you're getting to is like your struggle with the word patriarchy. Is that
yes,
right?
yeah, patriarchy, and, you know, and not, you know, not crushing the patriarchy, or not, you know, dismissing or disrespecting, you know, the feminine, and yeah, just all that.
All right, I got it. I'll pick up the ball from here. I'm so glad you're talking about this, because it's something that I really have been sitting with for a while now.
Me too.
Because so much of what I see and teach and I'm sharing about is needs to have this piece illuminated. And the word that I've found that resonates the most clearly is the word patriarchy. And I've actually been looking for a different word because of the way that that word can trigger these other meanings in people.
Yeah.
I think that for many of us, we associate the word patriarchy with men oppressing women.
Yes.
And I actually, that's not what I mean by when I use that word. And maybe you can experiment with me if there's a better word. The machine might actually be a better word, but it's a consciousness on this planet that is anti-feminine in a profound way. Not anti-women, anti the feminine.
Yeah.
And that's the earth, that's our bodies, that's our emotions, that's the waters of life, that's eros, that's the feminine essence in women, the feminine essence in men.
Yeah.
It's anti the feminine, and it's kind of like we are masculine led in our consciousness. That goes for men and women. We lead with the masculine, we value the masculine consciousness. But it's a masculine that is literally disassociated from the feminine principle. Yeah. So in many ways, it really has nothing to do with men and women. No. But at the same time, it is very fucking serious. Yeah. And I see it as being, you know, something that is killing us, killing the soul, killing the earth. It's extremely destructive. So maybe we should call it the machine. I don't know. What do you think? It's like anti-organic, anti.
Yeah, it's and I'm just, a word hasn't come to my mind, but it will. Why do we tie the feminine and masculine to being a man and a woman?
Mm-hmm. Probably because the bodies and the genitals are like these like ultimate symbols, right? It's like the penis is like contains everything about the masculine essence.
Yeah.
Inside of it, like there are like these transmissions, you know,
Yeah.
that I think are really holy and true.
If the world is symbolic,
Mm,
that, and if you're thinking about the creator, whoever, whoever you think, or whoever, people think it is, the world is symbolic. And, we're talking about before about illusions and Adam and Eve and, all of these things that we've taken so literally and we've forgotten that they're symbolic. And I kind of wonder, and it's a little bit random,
cool.
but what then is it about the female bodies that that's symbolic? As you're saying, like a penis is symbolic, a yoni is symbolic. And I just think, why? Like in the great cosmic joke, like, what?
Uh-huh. Which cosmic joke are we gonna keep going?
Is that, it's that, like an imperfection, and like it's where, like it's I'm reading Disappearance of the Universe at the moment, and it talks about, the illusion and and the universe, and what God is and what it isn't, and all of these things. But yeah, like, and so I'm just trying to work out where I'm going with this.
Babe.
And so, and the paradox, let's say, the paradox of, there's no beginning, there's no end, but yet we see, as human in 3D, we see there's very much, you are from a number dash to a number, and that dash in between is our life. Yeah. And what
I think about that sometimes, how like every year you live the date of your death,
Yes. Yeah.
I think that all the time. Like there's going to be like
too.
a month a day. Really?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever told anyone this.
Since I was a kid.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, like it's going to be a real day.
Yep. Since I was a kid. And I've seen myself like looking over my book of life at the end of life, and going, I don't want to look at that book and go, I wish I had have done that. Like, since I was a kid. So that's such a huge motivator for me, because that dash is fucking everything.
Literally. Literally everything. Yeah. And it's so funny, right? Because we don't want to think about death and we sort of avoid it, but it's when you really hold it that close, life becomes very urgent, and you want to make the most of that dash. You're gonna love my poetry album. I'm really excited.
I need
a whole track about death, and it's gonna be all, you're gonna love it.
I can't wait. I love spoken word. I love it. So
you'll have to send me some of the artists that you like. I would love to.
I had for a few years, I haven't ran one, well, not this year. We used to have a hedonistic jam where we used to get speakers in, and the audience would ask a question, and then the speakers would deliver a spoken word delivery off the cuff of that question.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Purely in the wild.
Yeah.
I love it.
It was really cool. It was such a beautiful experience, and every event was just a different thread. So it was beautiful. So I am a sucker for spoken word. I just want to see if there's anything else that we need to speak to.
A lot has happened.
It has. It's just, yeah, it really has. And that's, yeah, it just feels magical.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
So you were in this like psychopathic marketing culture, trauma bond thing.
Yeah.
And then you decided to go full flow, and
Yeah.
that was like too floppy.
Yeah.
So where are you now?
I'm integrating both. Yeah, and just allowing myself that space to just even feel what that is. So yeah. So I haven't offered a service in a year, and just, I mean, my mum passed away as well, so there's, you know, so I just had some time out, yeah. So now I'm just sitting with that and going, okay, yeah, just and just bringing that sacred union together. It just feels really, really beautiful to be able to do that. So that's where I'm at, is to, you know, yeah, just allow myself to be held and move within that in a way that, you know, I guess I've probably redefined what that, like what the masculine is and what the feminine is, but just moving beyond that from a quantum perspective, and remembering that at the quantum space there is no gender doesn't exist, and just allowing my essence.
That's it.
Yeah.
So you lead from essence rather than
yeah
whatever the manipulation agenda is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you kind of are proving to yourself that what you thought then, that you were saying how you kept being like, there has to be like a juicy, positive way to get people on board rather than just like manipulating them and poking at their pain and fears.
Yeah.
That's essence, right?
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
lead with who you really are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's such a potent place. And yeah, it feels like such a journey to go there. And that's, you know, a little, I remembered something just before when you spoke. I remember watching Monty Python when I was young, and it was this episode where it was a mirage, and I remember like thinking, oh, like, you know, he was in the desert and he seen water, and then he'd go to jump and then it would disappear and he'd fall into the sand. And I remember thinking, it's an illusion. It's all an illusion. Like, huh. And I remember thinking, our minds make that up. Like, that is amazing. Like, it's huge. And I think it's a mystery that not enough people question. You know, it's yeah. I find that
where all the aliveness is inside of that question. That's like the only question.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my favorite question.
Yeah. So, thank you. I've just got one last question for you, beautiful woman. And that is, what is turning you on right now?
Oh. I this is very mundane, but this is what's coming to me.
Good.
Do you ever listen to Audible books?
Yeah.
So I really like listening to books, but I find oftentimes the sound of the person's voice is so unpleasant. It's
Yeah.
just like, it's a hit or miss thing. And like, I'm a voice person.
Yeah.
So what I figured out how to do is I slow the book down. So I slow their voice down, and then I play really beautiful ambient electronic, like
Oh.
heart-wrenchingly beautiful music with it.
Oh.
And it gets in, it penetrates, like
I
it
love that.
totally. So like there was this book that I was really into the content, but it was so chafing to listen to. And like I'm telling you, now with my new method, I'm like having these ecstatic experiences. Like right before we were on the call, I was like outside listening to it. I was just like dancing with the sunset. I was like crying. Like it's just having this like amazing, yeah, I'm so turned on by it. It's really, really, really good.
Genius.
Yeah. Yeah. It like really gets in. You just got to create an atmosphere, and
Yeah.
slow the voice down. I like slow pace,
Yeah.
real intimate, and
Yeah.
so
Oh, that's beautiful. That's so cool. That would turn me on. Absolutely.
yeah, give it a try. Give it a try.
Mm,
Like
I will.
slow, deep music in the background. It's just like amazing.
Oh, that's so cool. I was listening to I started to a Joe Dispenza meditation this morning, and I was like, oh, his voice, I just sometimes like, but this morning I was
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
oh.
I figured out a way to like massage it so that I can actually receive what's being spoken. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That's so cool. I love that.
Oh,
Beautiful. Thank you
yeah.
so much.
Mhm.
This transmission, this energy, it feels so beautiful. It's just so divine. And I just think you are absolutely incredible. Such
Mm.
an amazing soul. Like, just, I feel absolutely honored and just privileged to be able to spend this time with you.
Oh,
And I feel like I've just met a sister, and I can like sit on your lounge, because it actually looks really comfy, and
totally.
just talk all night. Um,
Absolutely. I'm so glad that we know each other.
Me too, me too. Just, yeah, yeah, if I can help in any way, or I can,
Mm.
just whatever, just please know that I just will do anything for you to continue to speak
Mm.
your words and continue to be of service in the most beautiful way. And yeah, I'll just be watching, cheering you on, and just, yeah.
So much love. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I want to appreciate you for your devotion to the truth and to the real. And I can feel your soul relentlessly pulsing towards what is real and deep and true, and your love for it and your passion for it. And so inspiring. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Mm-hmm.
You can just bathe in that.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Thank you,
Yeah.
everybody.